Unfortunately, Yoo Jonghyuk wasn't on the 6th floor. The only comfort was that the movie on the 6th floor was easy. It was a typical thriller movie directed by Bryan Singer. I knew the killer, so it was possible to clear it quickly. The theater owner satisfied with the changed ending of the movie. You've obtained 500 coins as compensation. Lee Ji-hye asked as she was dumbfounded. He was the killer? Don't tell me it's a spoiler. There's actually someone here who hasn't seen it? Constellation Secret of Potter hates spoilers. In any case, an item was rewarded due to the movie's unique characteristics. Skill book, Calm Observation. Calm Observation. It was quite a useful skill. The skill allowed the user to see movements of the target and figure out their overall stats. It didn't mean much to me because I could use character list, but it'd be quite useful for someone like Yoo Sung and Lee Gil-young. This skill would be good against enemies good at acting. Exclusive skill, Calm Observation, has been acquired. Still, I felt a bit sad. It'd be nice to experience a movie like Gladiator. I'd yet to obtain a suitable combat passive skill. I might purchase the skill weapons training, but it wasn't a good idea to spend coins on the skill right now. I'm tired of movies. I agree with Jung Hee-won's words. I didn't want to look at a movie theater for a while. I should just be satisfied with the high performance fee. We went directly to the 7th floor. Maybe this time we could see Yoo Jonghyuk's back. Damn. Most of the posters on the 7th floor were torn. Yes, Yoo Jonghyuk was now in the boss room. Under these circumstances, there was really no time to delay. Run. It's almost the last floor. We started to run. We had to catch up with that guy as fast as possible, before he gave up everything. We passed through the auditoriums and ran down the aisles. The posters on the 7th floor were of Korean movies popular in the past. Shit, please let them all be torn. However, unlike what I hoped, the last poster was still intact. Damn. The screening will now begin. The blue spotlight covered the party and the scene changed. My head spun and a salty smell entered my nose. The stage was the sea. But this time, it wasn't a cruise ship. It was the smell of artillery. The moment I turned my head on the shaky boat, I heard someone's voice. Everyone down! I reflexively fell down and there was a bombardment of gunfire around me. A few soldiers collapsed while bleeding. Protect the ship! The soldiers dressed in old military garb were rushing around. An uneasy wind blew as the war took place. The turbulent strait was swirling and there was a distant sound of drums. Damn it. There's no Korean who didn't know this movie. It was because this movie had been watched by most South Koreans. Jung Hee-won looked at the horizon and muttered, how can we win? The ending of the theater dungeon would be only open when the master was satisfied. 300 Japanese warships filled the sea. Hurley confirmed the power on our side. Still, this was a movie based on historical facts. There was hope. What is this? There was only one ship where there should be 12. I hurriedly grabbed one of the soldiers and asked him, Where's the commander? Commander? Admiral Yi. The Navy sailor had no idea at all. My chest became cold. It was different from the movie I knew. The theater master changed the story. In no time, the enemy narrowed the distance. This was ridiculous. How could we win the battle without help from the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare? I looked around and hurriedly exclaimed, Lee Ji-hye! I thought this might happen. In fact, I brought Lee Ji-hye not just for her power, but to consider what-ifs. The Constellation Maritime War God is sorry for Lee Ji-hye. It wasn't difficult to find Lee Ji-hye. There was only one boat, and the place where Duke of Loyalty and Warfare messages could be heard was limited. She was vomiting in the corner of the first floor deck. Hey, are you okay? Lee Ji-hye looked at me with moist eyes. I can't do it. This wasn't about me. The Constellation Maritime War God is encouraging Lee Ji-hye. I'll never do it. I knew. The reason why this person was chosen by the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare, despite hating the sea. Due to the effect of your exclusive attribute, the memories from the books you've read will increase. In my head, a scene from the 40th chapter of Ways of Survival passed. Hey, how did she get chosen by the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare when she's afraid of the sea? I don't know. Maybe because she's an admiral in her ancestry? She's a descendant of the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare? There was considerable criticism from a few readers apart from me who made it to the 40th chapter. Did it make sense for her to have the blood of the great Duke of Loyalty and Warfare? But I'd read all the chapters except for the epilogue of Ways of Survival, so I knew. Lee Ji-hye wasn't of the bloodline of the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare. The Constellation Maritime War God misses his old friend when he sees Lee Ji-hye. Then are you a Lee from the Dokja clan? No, I'm Jeonju Lee. The Constellation Maritime War God looks at the descendant of an old friend. Lee Ji-hye was the descendant of Lee Yuk-gi, the companion of the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare. Duke of Firmness and Compassion, Lee Yuk-gi. Along with the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare, he led the navy to victory in the Battle of Tongkhangpo and the Battle of Hangsan-do. He was one of the few who defended the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare, Yi Sun-shin, when he was arrested on unfair charges. However, he didn't have enough myths and didn't become a sponsor. The Constellation Maritime War God is looking at Lee Ji-hye with sad eyes. Due to that, the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare selected Lee Ji-hye. She wasn't his descendant, but a descendant of his closest confidant. Maybe it was simply the choice of Duke of Loyalty and Warfare. Perhaps the Duke didn't see it. The fact that the descendant of his deceased confidant and friend would be killed by his own hands and became a demon. Well, this was according to the setting of Ways of Survival. A bounty scenario has occurred. Bounty scenario. Those who seek death shall live. Those who seek life will die. Category sub. Difficulty B+. Clear conditions. The maritime war god is asking for your help. Encourage Li Jie, incarnation of the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare, and win the Battle of Myeongdong. Time limit, 2 hours. Compensation, a stigma from the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare. I doubted my eyes for a moment. The bounty scenarios were rarely requested by a constellation alone. I looked closely because it was strange and saw the reward was also extraordinary. The stigma of the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare? If I cleared this scenario, I'd be able to use one of the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare stigmas without signing a contract. I shook Li Jie. Li Jie, stop it! Quickly! I don't want to. Can't the three of you handle it? Can't you do it a little bit? She doesn't know. I didn't know. Yes, this was her manner of talking. However, there was no time to accept her childish actions. No, I know. You aren't like this because of seasickness. What? It's because your dead friend liked this movie. Li Jie shook, like a boxer hit in the jaw. It was like a scene rushing to her head. It was the first scenario at Depot Girls High School. She strangled her friends with her bare hands. How did you— Don't ask how I know. There's no time to explain. Li Jie looked at me with blank eyes. You killed your friend with your own hands only to die like this? The first floor deck was pierced with a hook. I grabbed the hook, shooting towards Li Jie with my bare hands. Li Jie shook as she looked at me. You could run away here or not. You'll never be forgiven, but— There were loud shouts. I could hear the sound of Japanese raiders jumping on the ship. If you wake up now, at least you could save some people. I came up to the second floor deck with the trembling Li Jie. Li Gilliang and Yoo Jonghyuk were already surrounded. I raised my weapon. The enemies were ordinary Japanese soldiers. We wouldn't lose in a one-on-one battle. The problem was that there were too many. I sliced at the incoming soldiers but couldn't see an end to it. The enemy ships were firing from a distance. We were finished if the ship sunk. The movie would end tragically and we would die here. Li Jie! I realized the greatness of Yi Shunshin. How did he lead this battle to victory? Wake up now! This was a curse scenario. We didn't have Yi Shunshin or his companions. All we had was a weak girl protected by the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare. This girl staggered on the deck of the second floor. I'm disgusting. I don't deserve to be alive. Yes, it was disgusting. I was disgusting along with the way I was using her. No one would be qualified. Tears endlessly poured from Li Jie's eyes. I had Hercules' shield and stood in front of her. Survive and take responsibility. Atone for the rest of your life or live a garbage life. Just somehow survive. The ship was being broken by indiscriminate shelling. I turned to her with cold eyes. Or do you really want to die here? Your understanding of the character Li Jie has increased. All type of emotions came on the crying Li Jie. She was drowning in the dark emotions of resentment, self-contentment, and disillusionment with the world. Nevertheless, there was a straightforward emotion under it. I don't want to die. The constellations were selfish. There were those who didn't support their incarnation or didn't care if their incarnation died or not, but as long as any constellation was in the stage of their myth, they wouldn't turn away from their incarnations. The constellation, Maritime War God, has responded to the will of Li Jie. A bright red light burst around Li Jie's body. It was good for Yoo Jonghyuk, but I didn't get nothing. I had something to gain. The character Li Jie has received a new stigma. The third stigma, Sword Demon Li Jie. It was the strongest stigma that would later make her a maritime admiral. To God. Li Jie hit the hilt of her sword and looked at the sea. There were many enemies and no allies. She quietly turned her sword toward the world. There are still 12 ships left. A radiant beam emerged from the end of her sword. The character Li Jie has activated the stigma, Ghost Fleet Level 1. Water vapor rose in the area. Water sprayed all over the place and 12 ghost ships appeared in the sea. Get revenge on the enemies. The drumming paused like it was embarrassed. Shells flew around the Ghost Fleet. However, the Ghost Fleet was disembodied and didn't suffer any damages. Die in this place. Finally, Li Jie's fleet started to move forward. 12 ships moved through the water, creating countless ripples. The white barrels started firing, and the ships blocking the path collapsed helplessly. The girl who didn't cry led the battlefield. In front of the Ghost Fleet, the ships were completely overwhelmed. It wasn't just me. Jonghyuk and Li Gilliang also gaped at the scene. This is the real power of a stigma. It was the power of an admiral that wasn't pushed by anyone in a maritime war. In the fading light of the sunset, the screams of the Japanese were heard from among the smoke. The whirlpool of the strait sucked in the dead bodies. It took less than an hour for the last enemy ship to collapse. The theater owner is satisfied with the change ending of the movie. The fourth end credit has been reached. Performers Kim Dokja, Jonghyuk, Li Jie, Li Gilliang. You obtained 500 coins as compensation. As soon as you reached the ending credit, additional messages came up. The bounty scenario is cleared. You have received the Maritime War God's reward for the bounty scenario. Frankly, I was filled with expectations. Maybe I would get Ghost Fleet. If I could get it, then I wouldn't be envious of Lee Jie. The stigma, Song of the Sword, has been acquired. I thought I heard wrong when the message popped up. The stigma, Song of the Sword? This was originally a stigma that Lee Jie acquired midway in the story, yet the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare gave me this stigma? The Constellation Maritime War God thanks you. In a sense, this skill was something I needed more than the Ghost Fleet right now. If I had this stigma, I might be able to prevent the worst from happening on the 8th floor. The surrounding scenery slowly changed, and we returned to the inside of the movie theater. The exhausted Lee Jie was staring at me. Hajishi. You rest here. We'll go save Yoo Jonghyuk. But, listen up. I attained a new stigma, but I didn't have time to laugh. No matter how good the stigma, there was no meaning this world was over. In order to prevent the end, I had to save Yoo Jonghyuk. I used the ampules I gathered. When raising the stats level, the coins consumption was increased by every 10 levels. Therefore, I would use my coins first before the ampules. 4,000 coins have been consumed. The comprehensive enhancement ampules have been used. Physique level 18 to Physique level 24. Strength level 18 to Strength level 24. Agility level 11 to Agility level 20. Magic power 10 to Magic power 15. All stats have increased significantly. We climbed the last stairway. Everyone get ready. We have entered the 8th floor, the Heavenly Garden. The 8th floor of the theater was a rooftop. It was a small dome reminiscent of an opera house. As soon as I stepped on the green grass of the rooftop, I found the back of the regressor I was looking for. When I thought about all those who would suffer if he died, my anger soared. Fortunately, the back of his head was good enough to be hit. Hey, Yoo Jonghyuk! I ran towards Yoo Jonghyuk and hit him in the back of the head.